What is up YouTube, and today I'm going to show you guys how you can build your Ling Luo, which is basically free to play on your account after day 7 to counter those pesky control players. Basically, this is the meta build now for higher end PvP, and it's something you're probably going to want to convert to because she is going to be one of the best counters to control. Now, the thing with control is that you have a lot of counters to it now. You have Lilium, you have Doki Doki, which is hard to get, both of them. Green Sanya is okay as well, and then you have like Ling Luo as the main dispellers and purifiers that are going to be the best characters against control. You're not going to want to pick only one because it can get banned out. In fact, if they full pivot to control, you can end up picking like 3 even, 2 or 3. So for that reason, I'm going to show you guys a build you can use that will make her really good against stuff like Kazuya the Reverie, even stuff like Mio, right, and like Obel, things that can just lock down your team with CC and turn meter push, which are very annoying. Now, before we do that though, I want to talk about how effect accuracy and effect resistance works. So basically, if you have 100% more effect resistance than effect accuracy, at max, which is the max at 100%, you will be able to half the chance of debuffs landing. So if you look at Kazuya's S1, it's a 30% chance to slumber. This goes to 15%, and you can't make it any lower. So it's kind of like skewed towards CC, you'd think. But the thing is, with crowd control, it's kind of hard to actually make it work a lot of the times if you're against effect resistance because you really rely on chaining your CC, and as soon as that chain breaks, stuff like Ling Luo, which I'll show you, can just instantly cleanse your entire team and you just win. So this is the build that, will not win you every single game against control because of course you can only half the chance, but on top of that you have to realize that there's that innate 10% chance to resist, and if you end up resisting the opener, you just pretty much instant win. If you get CC'd on the opener, it's fine. You just have to kind of pray that your Ling Luo breaks out of it. And the reason why is because she has her really good S3 that will heal your allies twice, which is very important to note, and also give them immunity. So the reason why this healing is very good is because her passive is that when she actually heals, she has a chance to purify a debuff from the target. And if you have no debuffs, you apply Whale Prayer. So basically, your S3 will dispel 2 debuffs if you don't get unlucky and apply immunity, which is very good. On top of that, if you actually don't have debuffs, you have this Whale Prayer, which will also count as a heal, so it will activate your passive as well. So you can see why when Ling Luo gets her S3 off and gets her immunity off, her team, if she gets her S2 off after and extends the immunity and just stacks more Whale Prayers and heals more, you can actually have like this super big stack of Whale Prayers that will keep dispelling you against CC. That is going to be the biggest reason why she's so good against control and why you definitely want to build her on this setup to actually counter it. So yeah, like I said, you can't bring the only, soul dispeller in Ling Luo. You probably want to build like 1 or 2 more, but Ling Luo is going to be the best free to play option because she is probably the best counter to control right now in my opinion. So this is the setup I go for. Bloodbath and Evil Guard are pretty much required, and that's because Bloodbath you need so you don't die, and Evil Guard will give you extra healing, which is okay, but the biggest thing is the effect resistance. We're going to go for a full effect resistance setup, and the remaining matrices you can put into Strive, which will give you turn meter when you're attacked, which is very valuable, and if you don't have Strive, you can go for Swift Rush instead. Basically, you just go all effect resistance modules, and if you're thinking you might die to, cleave and stuff like that, Bloodbath keeps you alive versus most teams. You're not going to want to pick Ling Luo blindly with this setup. And in fact, she's actually not even the best healer for Bruiser versus Bruiser matchups. She's actually one of the worst ones. So because of that, people are starting to run her on this full effect resist control counter build. And basically, you run all this effect resist, you're getting 38% from your matrix effects as well, because Bloodbath and Evil Guard gives you 38% together. So you're basically getting 220% effect resist already from your matrices and main stats without even taking into account your sub stats here. So that makes it so that you're at a pretty big advantage. Usually effect accuracy characters such as Kazuya the Reverie are going to be running like 230% ish effect accuracy, kind of just a random number, but somewhere around there. So you're going to want to aim for as much as you can to get as much of a chance to actually resist. And you're probably thinking, oh, so effect resist needs to be 100% more to half the chance, and you can actually, get the same amount of effect accuracy on a right side piece as effect resistance. Where can you actually make this effect resistance up? Well, that's where we go to the shell. So for your shell, you're going to want to run Gigabyte for sure before we even talk about effect resistance, This makes it so that you can actually cycle very quickly. This is very good in standard versus standard matchups, and it's also very good in control because you can cut and also dispel your team. On top of that, by the chance you actually get CC'd on the opener because you get unlucky and you don't resist, the thing is, these actions that are stored that pushes your turn meter, it gets stored. So while you're CC, it still ticks down the turns, and when you wake up or when you get unstunned, after the next enemy takes their turn, you will get pushed. So that's why it's super strong against control as well, because even if you get CC'd, when you wake up, if they don't have like a CC ready to CC her right away, right after, then basically you can cut and then S3 and you just kind of win the game there. So that's why it's a super strong shell. On top of that, like I said, very good in standard matchups. This is the biggest reason, like this shell is the reason why, Ling Luos and Sonyas are just everywhere. They just stall out the game forever. So for that reason, it's just like a must-have shell on your healers right now. Yeah, basically a must-have. In terms of your passive, HP percent is pretty good on the first one, but the most important ones will be the second one for Ling Luo. So you're going to want to run Calm and Insight. So Calm gives you effect resistance. Some people think that speed is like the best thing always. When you're running effect resistance builds, you don't really care. You just want as much FRES as possible. And you're making up for the speed with Strive anyways. And because openers will hit you a lot anyways before you even take your turn, you'll get pushed up a decent amount. So because of that, you definitely want to make sure that you're on Calm. You can get up to 30% FRES. I got very lucky with mine. It will boost your FRES by a lot and show up in your stats. And then for your third passive, you want to run Insight. So there's a lot of juicy passives out here, right? People get baited by final damage taken decreased. A lot of people get baited by Synergy, which increases your team's damage, which doesn't really matter at all, to be honest. But the best one is going to be Insight on Ling Luo, Sonya, and like even a lot of bruisers that want to disrupt enemies like Holden. The reason why it's so good is because it gives you a huge burst of FRES at the start of battle, and this is how you make up that effect resistance. So it makes it so that you can actually get ahead of the effect accuracy users. Now you're probably not going to get 100% above the CCers in terms of FRES versus effect accuracy, but you'll get as much as you can, so it gives you the highest chance to resist. And this will make it so that, even if you get CC'd on the opener, when you eventually wake up, like I said, or eventually get unstunned, you will be able to just burst heal your team, just purify them and put up immunity and just win the battle. So this is the setup that I run. Like I said, you don't want to only run her on this setup. Good other options to run with her that you want to pick together with her in case one gets banned out for CC. Lilium, if you have her, is very, very good. Probably the best answer that can deal damage as well. Doki Doki is also very good on an FRES setup. Sonya has been seeing a lot of FRES setups as well because she can dispel on her S2. Then you have something like a Fushu who you're going to build on FRES not to actually prevent CC, but because she doesn't have cleansing, you want to get your S3 up to give speed buff and cycle your team and heal them so that your other dispellers have a higher chance to cycle and wake up and then, proc their Gigabyte and then, clear your team of debuffs. So yeah, those are the setups that a lot of people are running. Ling Luo is definitely one of the best answers, if not the best to CC right now. So you definitely want to build her and build her like this. And trust me, you will see a lot of success against those control players. Now, if you're struggling to keep her alive against Cleave, like I said, I don't really recommend her unless you're playing against crowd control. She's kind of like a B tier healer right now, or like A tier below the other ones. But this is like your pocket pick, not even pocket pick, but your ready pick for control players. And in a pinch, even on this setup, if you're playing standard for standard, it works just fine because bruisers aren't going to really one-shot you for the most part. And this FRES actually helps a lot in resisting things like Holden S2 and stuff like that. So yeah, this is the Lingluo build that I recommend to counter CC. Thank you for watching, guys. Let me know in the comments down below what else you want to see for PvP content, and I'll see you guys next video.